Nobody comes to Solana to trade Arbitrum. People come to Solana to trade dogs with hats. Give the people what they want.
I definitely am bullish on meme coins. People used to trade NFTs as this new meta for the cultural trading aspect. Meme coins is this new replacement. Jupiter has this limit order thing.
It's a fake limit order book. Everyone out there, use real order books, please.
Why are you still building on Solana? That's the thing that everyone asked me, because the technology did not change. It has only gotten better with time.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Next Billion podcast. We're here talking to the entrepreneurs, the builders, the people that are doing really cool stuff. I'm in a weird sort of room. That's why the colors might be a bit strange and my shirt matches the walls, but in a co-working space now. But we are going to be talking about DEXes today. And it's been a while since we've had anyone on the podcast talking about DEXes. But I'm joined today with Dhrumil from Root HQ. Dhrumil, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for having me, George.
You're doing really cool stuff, and we're going to get into that a little bit later, but maybe just sort of as a builder, as someone that's building something really awesome in the ecosystem. I think you've been to some of the hacker houses as well, perhaps in the past, or maybe not, but maybe let's sort of start with what's your journey been so far in Solana to get to the point where, spoiler alert, you're building like Phoenix order books, DEX UIs and stuff like that. So maybe sort of tell us a little bit about the journey thus far and how you got to be where you are today.
For sure. So I got started in Solana as a developer for about 3 years ago. One great thing about Solana is that they arrange really awesome hacker houses and hackathons that bring a lot of attention to the ecosystem. And that's exactly what happened. So I was in the Ethereum ecosystem. I was just learning stuff about Solidity and like how to, coming from the Web2 world, it was quite new. And that's when there was this local Indian hackathon in the Solana ecosystem focused on Indian developers. And that's what caught my attention. And
which one was that? Was that the Bangalore one or?
I think it was building out loud. It was an online hackathon where builders across the world, specifically Indian developers, can participate. And that's what exactly caught my attention and tried to make a submission there. And since then, I've been in the ecosystem building stuff. Early on, built some NFT liquidity solutions. And then I was also very curious about DeFi. So it's been about I think 2 years. I've been building some cool stuff around market making, trading bots and all of that. And today we are Root. I'm the founder. So we are building an exchange on top of Phoenix order book. And that's what we do. Yeah, excited about DeFi in Solana.
Very cool. So how did the hackathons work? Did you submit projects to there? Did you win any prizes? Did you not? By the way, I think pretty much most Solana projects all started in some sort of hackathon. I saw some talk on Twitter the other day about people being like, oh, what's the point of a hackathon? And that's the thing. It's like, bro, literally 95% of Solana projects that I've talked to here, all started in one of the hackathons. So clearly something must be happening okay. I mean, that's how we started. But what was, I don't know, was there collaboration groups or did you learn stuff or was it kind of locking yourself in a room to do some coding for a while? What was the experience, I guess, at the end of that hackathon? And I guess it was something that you were like, hey, this is pretty cool. I'm going to build on this for longer term than the duration of the hackathon.
Yeah, for sure. So I actually have attended 4 to 5 hackathons. The first one I attended was this online hackathon, which got me into Solana for the first time. That is when we built this NFT liquidity solution called Solvent Protocol. You deposit NFTs, we fractionalize them and all of that. So we were fortunately able to win the second prize there. So after that, we connected with Serum and built this whole protocol. Did a partnership with Solana, did some NFT lending and all of that. It was quite cool, but then after FTX happened, Serum was discontinued. It was forked into open book, and that's exactly when all the novel use cases of NFTs and the degen stuff was not happening well, and it was time to focus on more about the important primitives. So that is exactly when I attended a few hackathons afterwards. You remember there was the Sandstorm hackathon organized by Lamport DAO, right? So that is the one that I started attending with a DeFi product. And initially, it was just, the idea was about building a new DEX that was optimized for limit orders. But then eventually, that is also when new limit order on-chain order books like Phoenix was coming along, OpenBook was coming along. And that's why, we have seen a lot of volume that is being served by Phoenix and OpenBook, but there's not a lot of things that are being built on top of them. So that's why we thought maybe we can build few things on top of it, such as trading bots, market making vaults, and all of that. And that's how we got started early on as a hackathon after Sandstorm. Since then, we have a few internal products, things like market making vaults that we use our own funds to make markets on Phoenix. But now what we want to do is we want to build user facing products. So that's why and I think in the last 3 weeks itself, we've announced this new UI on top of Phoenix, wherein users can trade limit orders and more of the stuff that is going to come in the coming weeks. I'm very excited for that. So you can expect more advanced kind of orders and more centralized exchange like experience on top of Phoenix.
Absolutely. And I guess maybe getting into the DEX side of things now, like maybe take a step back and we can talk a little bit about the problem statement, because I think that's important for people to understand, right? I guess until somewhat recently, well, I don't know if it's recently is the right way to say it, but until, say, the last year or two, usually the DEXes, which attracted volumes, were AMMs. And AMMs sort of existed because there wasn't a way to do central limit order books well prior to Serum, certainly. And Serum's been around in Solana since about 3 years ago, something like that. But the experience has been sort of not quite at the centralized exchange level, but not quite an AMM. But anyway, the point is that AMMs started as a sort of compromise to dealing with slower blockchains and high fees. So you have a pool, you have some tokens in there, and essentially the price of those tokens is on a curve, much like a market maker would do if they're making books on a market. But so there is a market, there's an order book, but it's all sort of internal to the AMM. And look, that model's worked very well. It worked for Uniswap, doing billions of dollars of volume. Then you had concentrated liquidity AMMs and so on. But now I guess we're going back to real limit order book AMMs. And that's really, I guess, where A, Solana comes in and B, Phoenix. So we started with Serum, an Alameda somewhat project fork thing a long time ago. Then it got abandoned, and then FTX blew up, and then it got essentially forked and remade into something called OpenBook. So OpenBook's still around right now on Solana, but then the sort of next step for central limit order book on-chain DEXs has been Phoenix. So what do you think the main differences are between Phoenix and other stuff that's happened prior? And maybe that's sort of why you're looking to be building there rather than anywhere else, right? You mentioned vaults and bots and things and that, but why build on Phoenix? Like what's important about what Phoenix is doing compared with all of the other DEX stuff which has happened before?
So I think the fundamental difference in what Phoenix is doing is the entire data structure that is used for on-chain order matching is very efficient. And the way the smart contract is designed is that you can get the entire state of the market with just one account, right? So you can say that there's this market account wherein, let's say, Sol USDC, right? So if there's a market for Sol USDC, you can just take that one account address and you can get all the bids, all the asks, all the traders who are posting those trades, all of it in just one single account. And I think that's the beauty of it, because as far as composability is concerned, right? Because if you on-chain order books are very heavy in terms of the amount of size it consumes, and that's why if your order book data structure is not very efficient, then you definitely are going to find some trouble as a developer perspective. So I would say not just Phoenix, but there's some reiterations on top of OpenBook as well. It's being called OpenBook V2. So I think both Phoenix and OpenBook V2 are quite top-notch designs, and both of them are doing fairly well. OpenBook V2, I think they just integrated with Jupyter recently, so it might take a while for them to catch up with the volume. But yeah, as far as Phoenix is concerned, the developer experience is probably one of the biggest things that I found very easy to work with. The smart contract is a bit there's some level of study that you have to do, as far as if you've never developed on an order book before, then it's going to be a bit of learning there. But other than that, it's very easy to work with. So that's a great thing about Phoenix.
Interesting. Yeah, I think definitely the efficiency is one thing a lot of people talk about. But one of the problems has been that there's no like good UIs out there for Phoenix other than Phoenix themselves until recently. So I guess like was that a way that you were thinking to sort of add value there and be able to do something more is hey, there's this cool DEX out there. No one really knows how to use it at the smart contract level. It's really about getting that in front of users, so we need more UIs. Like I remember back in the day, Serum had like 20 different UIs. You could go to the Serum repo and then you would see all these different people that basically just forked it. They changed the colors, they added a few buttons here and there. Like actually, that's pretty good. Like that's fine because that's at least people doing something with trying to make a trading experience. And okay, maybe they contribute a little bit here and there to the actual code base, but the point is that hey, more people are getting exposed to those kind of products. Then when they died off, it kind of disappeared, right? So I guess more UIs being built upon Phoenix kind of exposes it to more people. But what do you think is the way to get in front of more users in terms of like having a limit order book experience? Like, is it a better UI? Is it a type of orders? Is it the type of customers? Like, is it just degens that are using this, or is it sophisticated traders who want really complicated order types and that sort of thing? Like, who are the users of these sort of limit order book DEXs, and sort of why are you targeting or not targeting these peeps?
That's a great question. So, Jupiter has this limit order thing, which is quite being used by a lot of people. And I think Jupiter
Not
limit
good,
orders are
man.
great.
Like
Oh, it's
it's
not?
not good. Like it's a fake limit order book. It's a market order that happens
Yeah.
on a timer. Like whenever they get a request at a certain price and an oracle and blah blah. But anyway, sorry, didn't want to interrupt. But everyone out there,
Sure.
use real order books, please.
Yeah. So we've seen that there are a lot of people who are posting limit orders on Jupiter, and the thing is that they don't realize like when the Solana gets really congested the network, it will be very difficult for these off-chain triggers to place a transaction at that moment, and the orders basically won't get filled even if your price is crossed. So that's why I think
Yeah.
it's quite important for users to show that there is an on-chain order book which can exactly do what you want. If you want a limit order at a certain price, you can definitely do that, and your limit order can stay on the blockchain as opposed to an off-chain trigger. And I think not many of them realizes that. Part of the reason could be that we don't have a lot of DEX UIs being marketed as the product, and we do definitely see order books being adopted well as far as like market makers are concerned. A lot of market making has moved there, but I think as far as traders are concerned, the ones using UIs for buying stuff, selling stuff at certain prices, we definitely think there is some innovation that is left in those side of things. And that is exactly what our thesis was of building the UI on top of Phoenix. Plus, also one thing is you need a lot of tokens being traded on Phoenix, right? So currently there are a few tokens, but there's not a lot of them being listed very fast. And one of the biggest reasons is that you need big market making activity on top of that. Only then it makes sense to launch these new markets on top of Phoenix. And that's where we want to do some work as well. So yesterday we announced like permissionless markets. So what happens is like if there is any meme coin or any token that you want to trade but with limit orders on the blockchain, then you can just come to our Discord or even just tag us on Twitter at roothq_, that hey, we want to probably list this token called Step or When or any of that token that you want to see limit orders for. We'll just make that for you. Currently how it works is like we do kind of this, if we rely on arbitrages for filling those orders, but very soon and there's some quick alpha about this, but very soon you'll be able to bootstrap liquidity for these markets as well. So market making vaults are coming soon too. So that's what Root is about. Like we want to basically build this on-chain order book experience for Solana degens, so that first they can realize that on-chain limit orders are a thing even for like the liquid tokens, and second we can also offer them the ability to bootstrap liquidity and use these quantitative strategies for bootstrapping liquidity all for all of these coins.
And this is huge, and I want to impress upon people how important this is, because all of these meme coins, we had meme coin season, right, where things are doing $1 billion of volume, and it's a dog with a hat or something
Yeah.
like that. Now, all of that trading of all of these different things, it was taking place on AMMs. and AMM pools, essentially. And why? It's because they were permissionless. And if you could just make a coin tomorrow that was a meme, you could just log in, you could make a pool, and then boom, now it's there and it'll get picked up by Jupiter in no time as if there's some volume. So basically, the permissionlessness led to the rise of markets that were worth hundreds of millions and a lot of money that's being transacted. And that has been an ingredient which I've been sort of saying to a lot of spot DEX projects out there before. It's like, look, you got to be listing these coins. You got to be adding literally everything. Make it permissionless. Make it super easy. But a lot of the perp DEXs, I guess, there's all sorts of different problems in terms of getting any coins on there, and it's hard and it takes approvals. And it's like, bro, what are you doing? Just add everything. So having a permissionlessness, the way to add coins permissionlessly to Root and Phoenix, I think is going to be huge, because now all of these coins, you can have actual real limit orders, not fake ones that are done on a trigger, actual real limit orders that sit there on the books in a high performance contract where you can actually trade and undertake whatever strategies it might be. So just to reinforce, like, that is an important thing. Is that something that you guys sort of saw as maybe a gap in the market with, like, how do we get all of these sort of long tail assets trading on limit order books rather than AMMs?
Yeah, exactly. So that is what we want to focus on in the coming weeks and months. But one of the interesting things that I can think of, you mentioned, all these meme coins were able to launch because of the permissionless market creation. And what is very interesting that I've discovered about these meme coin markets is that almost all of them had radium liquidity pools. And I was very shocked to see that it's not any kind of concentrated liquidity MM. It's just the XYK, the inefficient Uniswap V2 curve, right?
The inefficient one that people get wrecked on slippage and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's quite interesting to see that even though CLMMs are a thing now, they serve good volume, but for things like meme coins, the easiest solution is still launching that X into Y is equal to K pool, because it just works, right? You don't have to enter any sort of parameters. You just have to deposit the funds that you want, and that is it. It will be taken care of. So I agree that it is inefficient, but to some extent that has worked very well for people trying to launch new coins, and it has plus also done a lot of fees, right? So that is quite interesting. And yeah, I think limit orders definitely have some improvements over as far as these products are concerned. One of the most important thing is let's say we have all these tokens being launched on centralized exchanges. So what would it take for these tokens to actually launch on an on-chain exchange, right? Why not you come to Phoenix order book or an open book V2 order book and say that you are doing an ICO there, right? So that is exactly those are the questions that we are trying to ask and see what is missing in this ecosystem to get there, and basically just trying to build that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. And you mentioned the vaults as well, and sort of vaults is another thing that in the past helped Serum order books quite a lot, where you're literally getting back to the simplicity of making an XYK pool, right? It's really simple for anyone that makes a meme coin. You just add two assets and then you press a button and then it's there. It was kind of a similar concept with vaults as well, for making a vault to add liquidity to an order book, but B, once the money was in the vault, then it would be distributed in the order book in some manner that was optimal or according to some strategy or something. So are vaults another way of getting more liquidity onto on-chain order books? What's your take? You've obviously been developing vaults and that sort of thing on top of order books for a while. So what's the thinking there? Is this sort of like the normie entry point for getting people to add liquidity to real order books rather than, say, AMM pools?
Yeah, that is exactly what vaults are for. So for example, let's say there's a token that is being launched. Ideally, if you are on a centralized exchange, you would sign some contracts with market makers who would take a loan from you and place orders on behalf of you and ensure some liquidity. But the good thing about crypto and what Uniswap taught us is that anyone can become a market maker, at least a decent enough market maker if certain things are taken care of, right? So that is exactly what vaults are trying to do. Basically, vaults will bring this Uniswap like experience where if you want to be a market maker, just deposit these funds into vaults, and we can aggregate all of that liquidity into what we call like the vault, and basically use that to place orders on chain order books. So ideally, so you require a certain level of liquidity. So normally, if there's a single market maker, they can bring in a lot of funds. But for things like these meme coins and illiquid assets, the liquidity is the less. So in a way, if we are creating a vault for that, a lot of people are pulling funds together into a single vault, and then the entire vault is being used to trade tokens, right? So that basically collects the liquidity from different new regions in the ecosystem, brings them together, and then collectively tries to make the market for that token liquid. So yeah, I think that is quite interesting. Possibly, I don't think that is definitely not possible in traditional finance, but that's what I like about crypto. That is one of the things that we have in crypto that is not possible in traditional finance. That anyone can become a market maker with just a few clicks, and you can collectively make markets together.
Yeah, it is something unique and super cool as well. And I guess you could deploy a vault with a number of different strategies, right? Like it could be heavy on one side of the book and then lighter on the other side of the book, or it could be, concentrated more towards a market price or something like that. There's probably a whole bunch of different strategies that you could launch. Are you thinking of maybe having different types of vaults for people that are launching on Root, and like maybe they can play around with it? Or I don't know, what's your thoughts there in terms of like the type of strategy that the vault would do?
Basically, we have certain strategies. Currently what we have is users can choose the amount of risk they want to take as opposed to any kind of distribution structure. So what we have is let's say there are two regions who want to deposit liquidity. Both of them will have different risk preferences, and so based on that, we provide them let's say, how much of risk do you want to take, and users can just mention that, hey, I don't want to risk it a lot, or I want to go full region. They can choose that level of risk, and basically the strategy will be deployed to that particular pool depending on the risk. But yeah, so I do think there's also some scope for vaults that have different distribution structures that so there's this thing called impermanent loss, but that impermanent loss is should be okay if you don't mind holding that token if you're long term bullish, right? So if that kind of vault is also will be made in the near future, wherein users can say, hey, I'm bullish on this thing, or I'm bearish in this thing, and the vault will basically adjust according to what the user's preference is.
Yeah, so I think all of that makes sense. And another critical component of all of this are the bots, which you've mentioned as well, and like being able to make bots and being able to do that. Now, you've also been building bots for a while. We had a chat on things there. I remember, again, years ago when Serum was first started, Bondfitter made a bot thing for Serum, where essentially it was kind of like a vault. You put some money in, and then this bot like did some trades according to some sort of strategy. And I think it was actually like trading view strategies, so you could upload things like that. Now, I think that's quite a cool concept, and I think just the idea of DEXes back then was too early. But what kind of, you mentioned before that you've been building bots and doing other sort of stuff with order books. Is there any scope there to be adding different types of bots as part of Root and on Phoenix? Or how do you think about the necessity of bots being involved in these kind of markets?
I think bots are great. The simplest kind of bot that I see working very well today is the Jupiter DCA bot. People are
Mm.
using it quite often for DCAing in and out of certain tokens. And the beauty of this is that you can only do this on Solana, right? You can't do this on Ethereum or any other. And yeah, so DCA is just one of the strategies, but you can also do things like spot grid. So all of the centralized exchanges have this spot grid trading strategy wherein you can buy low, sell high in a certain range, and you can keep doing that, right? You don't have to manually do that. Since Solana is so scalable, you can technically do it for negligible gas fees. So I think all of these kinds of products bots can help us bring on-chain activity and also help so all the degens are looking for making money. They want to trade tokens. They think they have certain speculative decision about the market, whether it's going to go up or down, and bots is probably the way for them to do it even more efficiently and more in a better way. So I think bots are going to be probably very good. We also saw NFT sniping bots in the NFT rush, right? Remember those days when the chain used to because of the NFT mint that is happening in somewhere. So all of that was like because of the NFT bots that were there, and thankfully now because of priority fees that is not happening again. But I think, yeah, bots is kind of like quite important to Solana, and I think it's only going to help us bolster the UX of like how traders are trading.
Yeah, exactly. And, I've said this before. So Step, actually, a bit of a history lesson. When Step started, we started as a DCA contract in one of the early hackathons. And it was basically because Solana was the only place that you could build a DCA contract that made sense. And that's why we came to Solana. Was we tried it on some of the other, competing L2 options at the time, and it kind of sucked. But yeah, you could actually build a contract that could DCA and it could be somewhat profitable. So yeah, I think really good use case for things there as well, just for DCA, and people understand that as well.
Yeah.
So looking forward, 2024, new year, looks like things are kicking up again in terms of DeFi activity. We have all-time high DEX volumes recently, certainly with the Jupiter launch and stuff like that. What do you think is in store for the rest of this year, maybe in general or at Root, or what are you building this year or focused on? Like, what do you think the general sort of market sentiment is for DEXs, for DeFi in general?
So yeah, I definitely feel better about building on Solana this year than I felt in the last year. I mean, I was bullish, but like, when things are
How did
going
you
up,
feel
like
last
there's
year?
more.
Like getting punched in the
I
face every day.
Yeah, like, so I do remember, like, when I was working on building new stuff on Root, I was talking to several, like, people in the ecosystem, in the crypto ecosystem, and all were like, why are you still building on Solana? Like, that's the thing that everyone asked me. And it was
Clowns.
kind of like a no-brainer still back then, because the technology did not change. The there's a meme when, like, when the token price falls, the technologies all of a sudden changed, right? So
Yeah.
that's not happening, and it has only gotten better with time. So but yeah, like, since now that, like, activity is back again, I think it's time for us to take advantage of it and build new stuff. I am definitely happy about, like, all the token launches that are happening, Gtope, Jupiter, and, like, the ones that are coming along, Camino, Meteora, all of that are great. And, like, I think that's why we are going to see a lot of ecosystem tokens being traded. And that's the thing, right? Like, if you have ecosystem tokens, then there is going to be some DeFi activity that is happening. And I think one of the complaints of the last year was, like, not enough ecosystem tokens were there, right? Like,
Yes. 100%.
so that so that's why I think this year it's probably going to be about, and like, this year we also saw a lot of meme coin rush, right? So I definitely am bullish on meme coins. Like, I think it's kind of like, how people used to trade NFTs as kind of like, this new meta for the cultural kind of trading aspect. I do think meme coins is kind of like this new replacement. I saw this on a podcast, like, where they are saying that, like, Blur, the NFT marketplace on Solana, showed that you don't really want to trade a JPEG. You only want to buy it and sell it for high. It's not probably for the art, and that's why, like, people started trading on Blur. And then you suddenly realize that you don't need NFT in the first place. You can just trade meme coins, and that is more efficient, right? So that's why I think we will probably still see a lot of meme coin rush happening. And as far as DeFi is concerned, I'm definitely bullish about things happening in the order books area. I definitely am happy about things happening in the liquid staking. Like, finally we have a lot of liquid staking attention there. So yeah, overall very bullish on where Solana is going, and more excited about the applications that are only possible on Solana, which is on-chain order books.
I agree. On-chain order books is probably the main application for Solana as well. Like, Solana's fast and cheap, and that's kind of the holy grail for a long time, since forever, of making an actual on-chain order book. And you've seen previously, like in EVM world, they all have to go off-chain, like DYDX and whatever. Like, their market matching and whatever else is taking place, it's all off-chain. It's on some random thing. It's like some other L2, which is not ETH, it's something else. Like, it's just kind of dumb. Whereas with Solana, it's like everything just works. It's all the same buttons, the same wallets, the same everything across the space. So very cool to see. So if people want to find out more about Root HQ and some of the stuff that you guys are doing, where should they go? Websites, Telegrams, Twitter? What's the best place to get in touch?
Yeah, so our website is root.exchange. You can find, like, If you want to trade limit orders, please reach out to us. We can onboard any of the token that you want to see limit orders for. And you can reach out to our Twitter on @roothq_. And yeah, like definitely happy about where things are going. And also, like, thank you so much for having us, George, and let us share our story.
Of course, of course. So definitely go and check out some of those links. We'll put them below. Root HQ has been amazing. Also, literally, these guys are the first sort of community UI for Phoenix. And that's important because Phoenix kind of sucks with A, UI, and B, onboarding permissionlessly, new tokens, that sort of thing. But it seems like Root is going in that direction, which is great to see. So definitely for ecosystem projects, reach out to them. Let's get some liquidity going. Phoenix is the best, order book for doing that kind of stuff as well. So yeah, really cool to see. Dhrumil, thank you so much for your time today. And yeah, have a great rest of the day. And we'll be in touch, I think, for adding more stuff in order books in future. And I think Step will see if we can get a listing there, or Vaults, or help out here and there, because we definitely want to see more on-chain liquidity. For this 2024.
We can definitely get you listed. It's just
Let's go.
less than 10 minutes. Yeah, let's go.
See, that's what we need. Like, that's what we need with all of these meme coins and things, right? It's like, cool. People want to trade the coins of which they're excited about. And a lot of DEXes went down the path last year, I think, of like, oh, we're going to add Arbitrum perps on Solana. Nobody comes to Solana to trade Arbitrum. People come to Solana to trade dogs with hats and things like that. So it's like, give the people what they want. But anyway, great to chat, and we'll talk again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Josh.
Cheers.
See you again.